Hi everyone, welcome to Meet the Mom. Do you often feel stuck in your career because of lack of support or networking opportunities? Does this happen with you that you are looking for a community of women who can support you? Today we'll talk about how women communities can help women accelerate their careers. This is our special for Women's Day. And who better to speak about this topic than the founder of Ladies Who Lead? It is a community for professional women. Aabha Bakaya is here with us. Thank you, Aabha. Thank you so much for being with us today. Let me tell you a little bit about Aabha. Aabha has a 15 years of experience in news and television, and she has worked with major networks. And now she is pursuing her passion of. She co-founded a women's community. So, welcome, Aabha. Tell us a little bit more about Women Who Lead.
Thanks so much for having me, Neha. Great to be here and love the work that you do. And I love that you're also trying to inspire other women in your community. We at Ladies Who Lead are a platform of a safe space for women to come together, for like-minded women to come together and engage with one another, engage interesting ideas, exchange notes, accelerate each other's dreams, and it's actually a very organic way or network that we've created. People tend to really form their own connections. We of course bring them together over very curated events. The idea is for it to be meaningful. So but we find that the women have a lot of fun while doing this. They really love to kind of grab a drink, let's say, with other women who may be facing similar challenges at the workplace. If they're building their own business, what are the tools and resources they can tap into, and they find that this network throws open a whole host of opportunities for them. And we, as well as our members, are very, very supportive in that growth journey.
That is so wonderful. That's such a beautiful thought. I think women coming together and just to know that somebody is going through something similar, it gives you so much strength because essentially sometimes, I mean, not anymore, but because of lack of diversity in hiring, women do feel that they're a part, they are just thrown into this boys' club and there is less empathy to how the kind of lives they live. So building a community like this will really strengthen women and women careers, I'm sure.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head because that's exactly it. We are a premium club for women leaders. We're far more inclusive than some of the other clubs that are out there that may be formidable in terms of cost or have a very large number of male members. I think this
Correct.
is a very friendly community, and we have people from all kinds of industries. So whether they be entrepreneurs, whether they're individual achievers, they could be women who are in their 40s looking to reinvent themselves. Maybe they've already been working in a space and they're trying something new now. For example, moms who want to get back to work or start home businesses. It's a nice mix, and you're always likely to find somebody else who you can relate to, and
Correct.
as well
Correct.
as people that you're inspired by, because so many people have different challenges that we're not even aware of.
I couldn't have agreed more. And I know exactly what you mean when you say that why you're trying to establish a friendly women's community, because I myself have been a part of a few communities, traditional ones, which are essentially for women. But I felt that there was a bit of a gap there because the experts they brought in to speak with the women they were not very much in touch with the kind of challenges they were facing. The chats would be very superficial and sometimes even condescending. I found that like really high achieving men would come in from the industry and would talk about how you can build a career or things to do when you're in that space. but they would also disregard the challenges that women face, and saying that sometimes it can be like a hobby business, or it didn't seem like a very friendly or conducive environment for women to feel safe
Yeah.
enough to say what they feel or
No,
what their
no,
particular challenges are.
absolutely.
You're made to feel a little
Absolutely. I
lesser
feel,
that
sorry, you were
you know
saying even lesser?
you're made to feel a little lesser for having those challenges, those realities of your life.
No, no, these are things we feel very passionately about. I think at Ladies Who Lead, and by the way, you can check us out at ladieswholead.in in case anyone's listening and wants to simultaneously see, because you'll immediately get the vibe of our events from some of the pictures there. Um, but we feel very passionately about this because honestly, we believe that you should be the best version of whoever you want to be. Whether whatever choices you want to make in life are yours. We're here to support you whatever you do. You may just want to do a course, for example, but you may want to find the right course. Perhaps you want to expand your knowledge in a certain space. Alternatively, you might be someone who's raised you know a couple of million and now wants to raise 10 times more. So there is a huge spectrum, and we also appreciate, like, so many of our women members. Yes, some of them are very ambitious. At the same time, there are many who are running families, dealing with the same issues that so many other women deal with, where you're trying to run a small business, at the same time deal with family dynamics and responsibilities, and a lot of people not necessarily appreciating why you're putting in so much time and effort into your work. And that's also something we try and address, in terms of highlighting some of the women who are in fact from our community, who've done it all. So it doesn't mean that you have to do it. It just means that in case you are looking for some kind of inspiration, you can speak to someone who's managed to do it. You can find what perhaps worked for them. Are there things that you can do that might make it easier? It gives you a little confidence in perhaps going back and telling your friend or partner or whoever else that, no, actually, I do want to do this. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I completely agree with you. I really, you really said it quite beautifully. And to have that kind of mentorship is also really important. That's one thing.
Exactly.
I want to ask you, what are some of the challenges that you have faced in your career as a woman, which might have led you to create this community?
So I think, one thing which is always an interesting debate is whether or not to use the fact that you're a woman to your advantage. So many people talk about how it's a deterrent, but sometimes you also get away with a lot of things because you're a woman. In
Yeah,
India, yes, men are probably more comfortable with other men in the boys' club, um,
true.
but they're also sometimes softer on women because they're afraid to yell at a woman, for example. Like, I'm completely generalizing for the but I'm just saying it's an interesting debate because I know women who are supremely confident at using their guile to kind of get what they want, not in any kind of inappropriate way, but
Correct.
charming their way out of tough situations, for example.
Right.
But there are equally other women who resent that and want to be seen as equals. So it's
Correct.
it's a choice. I think I wouldn't necessarily say that I've had challenges that are specific to gender. I think I would probably have had challenges like anyone else would, just in terms of career trajectory, where something is possibly not working out for you and then you find another route, for example. Um,
Right.
but I do agree that media is a very kind of, you do need to have a certain aggression to get ahead. And I
Yeah.
think I have met some extremely aggressive women, and I mean that in the best way possible, because they're extremely talented women who've been able to deliver time and again and reach the heights of their career in the field. I don't think
Correct.
everyone can do that. I think some of us are a little softer
Yeah.
in that respect. If I compare it to some of my peers, um, but like I said, you have to find something that works for you.
Absolutely. I think that's so true. I also often feel that women have this, women definitely make the world a better place. If you put more women out there, I think the dynamics of the workplace, everything will change also. The way the world is also, the way we function in the world will also change. If there are more women out in the workspace, it'll become a space where
Yeah.
you don't have to change your nature or your instinctive attitude towards life and adorn this armor and become this other person or be aggressive or be tough. If you're not tough, that's fine. There should be safety there, and you should be able to bring what you bring to the table, and irrespective of your gender.
Yeah, and I think things are changing. I think that
I
earlier,
agree.
perhaps women felt that they had to be that aggressive in order to be treated fairly.
Hmm.
Today, I think that people are or companies are valuing certain skill sets, and I feel
Exactly.
that the ecosystem at work is also valuing certain qualities such as empathy.
Exactly.
So if you have an opportunity to be a leader, or prove yourself as a leader, if you're
Yeah.
able to also imbibe or display some of these qualities, because
Yeah.
people are naturally today drawn more to someone who can understand, empathize, create a better work environment for them.
It's like you read my mind. Exactly what I meant.
Mm.
That women, not just women, based on what you exude, people are recognizing it and putting you
Yeah,
in those positions or leadership positions based on what you're
yeah,
capable of, and that really comes from who you are within. That's really wonderful. We've seen a spike in so many entrepreneurs, and a lot
yeah.
of women are also really living their dream right now. I'm sure because of the kind of work you do, you meet a lot of women entrepreneurs.
Mm.
Can you give us 5 tips for all the entrepreneurs out there watching this podcast as to 5 tips when they embark upon their entrepreneurial journey?
So I think it's important to remember, because right now there's so much news and hype and all this funding news. So
Yeah,
I think people get a little caught up, and people also get a little intimidated because they feel that they have to instantly show success. I
yeah,
think it's important for everyone to remember that it is a journey. I
yeah,
think your idea or your concept has to be good. You have to remember that you have to ensure that there is a market for your product. You could think it's amazing, but if there is no market for it, then there's no point.
yes,
I think in So I think finding the right concept is good. I think having the right team is also important, because you need people around you that can understand your vision and help you scale. Having a business plan is important. I find that a lot of women don't put that together. They kind of go organically with the flow. And by the way, I also struggle with numbers, but it's important. So you need to find someone in your ecosystem who can help you put together a plan, so that you know that, okay, this is how much is these are my fixed expenses or outgoing, this is what I want to keep for marketing, things like that. Have some kind of aim in mind as to the revenues that you anticipate, so that you know which direction you're moving in. Create a brand
yeah,
identity, your marketing, your logo, what is your brand all about, fonts,
right,
colors, all of that.
yeah.
So yeah.
That's
Did I do
absolutely
five?
right.
I can't remember.
Those were great, and I'm sure there were more than 5 tips that you gave them. I'm sure many people will get a lot of help from that. But you said something
Hmm.
really interesting. You said that have a plan in mind when it comes to your finances. I do
Yeah.
also feel, you said yourself that I also sometimes struggle with numbers. Do you feel that women in our country are not financially as literate as they should be, or
Hmm.
they don't have that much understanding of, when it comes to revenues or understanding where to put their money? Financial literacy, is that a challenge for many women?
Um, so I think sometimes women don't give themselves enough credit. Uh, a lot of them, if you think about it, manage household expenses. They're very aware of, what's happening around them in terms of what their partners are choosing to invest in, what is a
Yeah,
good value buy.
Yeah,
So it's, I and many of them are actually very well educated as well. It's just that they haven't necessarily applied it in a professional context. So I
exactly.
think sometimes it's just about having the tools, because when you first look at an Excel sheet,
Yeah,
you do tend to get a little intimidated. Uh, but if you're able to just, it's like when I was talking to you about it right now, I said, a lot of women would must be thinking, this is so obvious. Why is she saying this? About the ingoing and outgoing, because it
yeah,
seems so simple, but I think once you put it on
true.
an Excel sheet, sometimes people get intimidated. Um, but I think it's really just about having the tools and understanding that the reasons for perhaps doing some of these things. It's only to help organize, see the gaps, something you could have missed, where you might actually have some extra. Do you need another intern or peon or, social media executive, or, one other person on your team that you can add with perhaps,
Yeah, I know.
something that, yeah,
I know what you mean because once you get down and you start doing it, the things that seem like no brainers and they seem really obvious, they sometimes aren't. You do not consider them
exactly.
because as an entrepreneur, it is absolute chaos. And there's so
Yeah.
much happening around you that, like you said, you need a great team, people who understand the vision and can work towards that. If they need constant direction all the time,
Mm.
then you can't leave what you're concentrating on and then you have to just keep directing them. It has to be
And
team
you
effort.
Yeah, and you also need records, you see, because tomorrow or whenever you want to go fundraising, even if you're not fundraising, you do need some records to have an organized business and to show scale after 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, to keep track of accounts. The more informally you run it, the more trouble you're actually creating for yourself down the line.
I completely agree. Even if you're not looking to raise funds, you cannot grow unless you measure. You cannot improve something you can't measure. So that data, that is really important. It's your report card. You really need to
Yeah,
keep a track of what you have done,
yeah,
what worked, what didn't, to be able to do something that's better again.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you've really said like
absolutely.
these are simple points that people do not consider.
Yeah. No, no, absolutely. And
So
the other thing is, sometimes you don't actually need a lot of money to start a business. You might just need a small amount. That can be friends and family. It can be, I mean, I know a lot of women out there who also go and find accelerators or, other kind of funds that are looking for, early stage startups, and, just that
right,
initial seed amount. But very often you don't even need that. You may have a small corpus to kickstart with. So it's not so much that you have to get into that cycle of fundraising. It's more about where you feel something's going to contribute to your growth.
completely agree. I think women are also becoming risk takers. They may not have been traditionally, especially in our country, because we're always taught to play it so safe. But
Mm,
they're so sure of themselves. They have
yeah.
good education. They're getting out there and they're really taking risks. And I mean, they're doing wonders. Like, look at some of the amazing women that we've seen. And I know
Yes,
you
many
had
of them.
invited.
Go ahead, go ahead. I was saying many of them are just waiting for an opportunity.
Correct,
Sorry, go on.
correct. It is complete untapped potential that we're sitting on, and so
Yeah,
many of them are just out there. Watching this, probably
absolutely.
they'll get inspired to start their own business today.
I hope so. I hope so. Or, and I find around me so many women. There's Marina Balakrishnan in Bombay, for instance. She started taking cooking, courses at the age of, I think, 40 plus, and she's suddenly doing so well. She's become a gourmet chef. She opened up her own outlet. She's being referred by the best network. So she completely reinvented herself and found something she was so passionate about and went with it. So it's not always the sort of CEOs and overachievers that we celebrate. It's also people who find their passion.
I agree. I agree. At the end of the day, if you feel fulfilled in what you're doing, that is the whole idea, right?
Yes.
You can get that fulfillment from being a CEO or running a business that which is extremely successful, or like you said, just cooking that makes you happy and sharing it with others and making a career out of it. What better way to live your dream? That's what we
Absolutely. Absolutely.
from entrepreneurs to professional women in the workspace. Um, do you still think that there is a pay gap when it comes to India? In India also, or has equal pay something that has come to India and India is warming up to this idea?
I mean, I think in the Indian context, you hear this mostly in the Bollywood context. I think. Uh,
Yeah,
I think the last time this came up was during. I think Deepika made a comment, and I think maybe to some extent in sport, but that
yeah,
could also be simply because while women are now, of course, making it a lot more in sports, we have so many women achievers. For the longest time, it was predominantly, you know, the
men.
men. I think in the corporate space, I haven't seen any reports to necessarily base this on, but I don't necessarily think
There
it's
is
prevalent in the corporate space. Yeah.
But it is a tragedy that such successful women, like the actors of this country and the Indian film industry, is such a religion in our country. Even there, all these women that people idolize and look up to, and they're really changing the narrative now as well.
Yeah.
Women like
Yeah.
Deepika, they're doing women-centric and really strong roles. Yet they
Mm.
face this gap when it comes to pay, which is extremely sad and. Um,
Mm.
you really
See,
said it that
at the end of the day, sorry, I keep interrupting you, Neha. I continue.
no, don't worry. I keep interrupting you. We have so much to say. Go
See, at
on.
the end of the day, there's also the business angle to this, right? And this is incredibly controversial. Of course, I believe in equal pay. Like, of course, it goes without saying. But there's a
Exactly.
business angle to it. The advertiser feels they're going to get more ROI on the male actor because they're aiming at the Indian masses. So
Right.
you and I can sit and have this conversation, but at the end of the day, the advertiser's sales are coming from, you know, the larger, mass
Bigger
population of
stuff.
India. So it goes back to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. In fact, I had seen some interview where one of them said something like this that I bring in these many people and that's why I get paid more. I see that because as a marketer, when I am putting money on an ad, I see that this ad will probably bring me more return on investment. So I'll scale this one instead of this one because this is only for probably maybe for a event or just awareness, which is a limited period of time, and it may not get me that much conversion. I completely get that, but even then, just to set an example, maybe something needs to be done or a word needs to be put out when it comes to women who are doing equal amount of work and have similar star power, somewhere not feel that I wasn't paid enough.
I think it's changing. I think that we have seen some brands that are willing to take very, unconventional and progressive stances and decisions on things. So I wouldn't be surprised if this happens sooner than later.
Great. Abha, tell me a story or somebody you might have come in contact with. It can also be somebody really popular, a woman achiever who really inspired you personally.
Um, a woman achiever who
Inspired you, like, or just
inspired.
some woman you met who really inspired you.
Um, so I think that perhaps, I mean, there are, of course, so many amazing women in corporate India. I mean, being somebody who's been a business news journalist for now more closing on 20 years, I have come across some very powerful women. But, I think what's not talked about so much are the stories, perhaps, of the women who have made it from very humble backgrounds, sometimes smaller towns, not necessarily any privileged access, very, good education, but could be just, could be a prime Indian college or, something that was local to wherever they were growing up. And in a sense, of course, you always hear about the IIMs and the Stevens, but there are also several other institutes in India where we've seen people, graduate from and go on to achieve heights. And I think what inspires me about that is that, you see, these women don't talk about it, they don't tom it, they just do it as a very normal thing. They're not even so-called ambitious, they just started working because it was that's how their parents brought them up, that you need to go out and earn an income. They contribute to their family, and yes, they were good at it, and they continued to grow. Even in Arundhati Bhattacharya, for example, who was the head of State Bank of India,
Yeah.
she traveled a lot. Like every 2 3 years she was moving from town to town, and her husband was also moving with her. So and I asked her once, I said, how did you do it, or what inspired you, and these kind of questions. And she said, but what's there in this? Like, I got transferred, so I got transferred, I was working. you
Yeah, it's not something
know
that they talk about, or they just use to say that, I have worked so hard and this is life.
this is life. And I think for me, that is worth celebrating. I agree that there aren't enough women in the workforce. I know the numbers haven't changed much. And I agree that we do need to see more women celebrated, so that we encourage others to also take that path. But in doing all of this, sometimes we forget that many of them have been doing this, with just normalcy, with no hype, with no expectations of any kind of pat on the back,
Correct.
just going about their normal business.
That's just something that they have to do, and that's something,
Yeah,
that's how they see it. It's a normal course of things.
yeah, exactly.
That's true, actually. And such women, when they reach the heights they do, it is actually truly inspiring. That is a good story.
Yeah,
Um,
and Neha, it's you see, it is harder for women in the sense that, yes, you do have to make choices. It will take a lot of your time. You do have to invest that time. It is stressful, which is it's stressful for everyone. Now, I know some women who are super feminist would be like, these aren't even reasons to acknowledge,
yeah,
but let's be aware of the fact that, yes, you might be working, you might get pregnant in the middle, you will need that time off. So, some women bounce back, go back to work straight away. Some women find it harder to leave a little
yeah,
baby at home and go back to work, or deal with the changes in their body. So it's not necessarily easy, but it's all doable. And I think it's just about having the right support system. A lot of the women who have reached very senior positions in the corporate world had that support system. But there are equally a lot of women
absolutely
that, like you and I are discussing, had to just figure it out. They didn't have a choice.
correct. Absolutely, that's so true. I think, unfortunately, because of the gender roles that have been defined, women do become the primary caregivers for the child once they have a baby, and then to balance that out, or to even get somebody to look after the baby while you're gone for that many hours, is a huge challenge for many people out there. To find somebody you can trust as well. I think there's such a lack of, like, when we were growing up, our parents would be definitely more trusting. We'd all grew up in a huge house with so many people in the house, and they wouldn't have to bother that I really have to 24/7 take care of this child like individually. But now parents are paranoid. They're also really hands-on, which is sometimes a really good thing, because they really work hard to give their children some skill sets, or to learn different things when they're growing up. But even then, it becomes a challenge to leave your child at home, to go to work, to find somebody trustworthy to take care of your child. So these are like very real challenges, and somehow it becomes the woman's problem. But like you said, slowly but surely things are changing. Men are, like you said, that somebody had to keep moving because of her career, and her husband would move with her. Men are also taking equal responsibility in supporting and in accelerating the growth of their wife's career. So that is a really positive step, and kudos to all those amazing men also out there this
Yeah.
Women's Day who are supporting women in their career and generally in their lives.
Women also like to have something to contribute now, in the sense that they like to be part of the dialogue. If, for example, if you're sitting around the dinner table and someone's talking about cryptocurrency versus stock markets, they also like to have an opinion, and why not? They should.
I completely agree. And I think also just doing something constructive or just being informed gives you that confidence to be able to participate in society and also to have an opinion of your own and have that opinion be respected, which now is increasingly, it's just such a good space to be in. And it's such a good time to be a woman because your opinions matter.
Their
It may not
opinions
have
matter.
mattered so much earlier, but now it's changing. What do you
It's
think? What do you think?
changing, and you're also contributing in the sense, I know women who may be working, they set up their own funds for their kids, for example, over and
True.
above what may be happening at home, or through the family. Um, it's nice to have a little bit of independence to also kind of, or be empower yourself enough to also make those choices and do a little bit more, uh, with whatever corpus you're able to build for yourself.
Very true. I think financial independence, or generally just being independent or having your own, something of your own, does give you more, it empowers you and it gives you more power and it helps you take decisions for yourself and not depend on others to take decisions for you, which is what it's all about, right? It's being your own self
Absolutely.
and choose a path that works well for you. Speaking, like we've been talking about women and their careers, do you think it's important to have a mentor in your career to grow or
Absolutely.
to just to keep up with
No, no, you
times?
do need a mentor. And the mentor doesn't have to be a woman, it can also be a man, but it needs to be someone who understands your strengths, and is invested in your journey, in the sense that they're able to give you that time or suggest things. But you see, very often you'll have to build that relationship with your mentor. I think these days a lot of people expect that they should just be able to call someone up and chat to them. But people are busy, and mentors are obviously busy people. So, because we get so many of these requests, and seniors are very happy to take out the time, but everybody wants somebody who they actually resonate with, who's listening to them, where you build a bit of a relationship. There's some synergy perhaps in their learnings and what the mentee is trying to build or do. Then there's value creation. Otherwise, you're just
True.
hounding someone to get contacts, and that's not really the right way to go about it.
Absolutely. I don't think that truly works. Um, since you are a part of since you started a women's organization, and there are so many other women organizations in need. Say they could be supporting, educating the girl child, or other helping other women who may have faced some sort of abuse or torture in their lives. How do you think how can women and women organizations help other women organizations, and what is the route for it? What is the way forward in such cases?
I think that it's really great to have a number of different kinds of organizations. There's always support required, domestic violence, as you said, girl, child. And we also have a lot of members, in fact, who do some amazing work across different fields, and, and are creating an impact in terms of social impact as well. So I think it's important to have all these different networks. I think in terms of how we are different, is that your question, or is it about
Yeah.
the
So
larger
how?
ecosystem?
No, I just meant to ask you that how can women support other women organizations, be a part of multiple
Ah,
organizations?
okay. I think it's all about collaboration, and I think today collaboration is key, especially post the last 2 years. Everyone's learning to work together, come together, do things that can create a multiplier impact. and I think that obviously, I'm just saying on the practical front, sometimes it's not always possible to work things out. But as long as the intent is there, wherever one feels it will help, your immediate community and vice versa. It's always great, and we do believe in collaboration.
I think that's super because that is the mantra now. In the at least the COVID era, collaborations all the way. So that's superb. I think it's a
Collaboration,
great idea.
community, yeah, these are the
Whatever you
buzzwords now.
can
Yeah,
bring to the table from your organization and collaborate with somebody who may benefit from it. And if it's a good cause, why not?
yeah.
So that's a great thought, actually, something to really think about. Um, moving on to the workplace again, do you think women are taken less seriously after motherhood when they go back to work after their maternity leaves?
So a lot of corporates now have programs that help women in that transition phase when they return post maternity leave. So
Right.
they are trying to be very supportive. Uh, a large number of women drop out post having a child, or they drop out of the workforce. So, and that's
Right.
really the statistic. That's where it's that's where we're kind of still stuck. So organizations are doing their bit. A lot of them now have proper programs, coaches, to really help women bridge that phase. I think on their part as well, women need to be mindful of the fact that if they do want to go back to work, they also have to give themselves a timeline. Because there are women who I know suddenly want to go back after like 5 4 5 years, and it's very tough. It's very tough. It's not impossible, it's just tough in the sense that you may still get a role, but it may not be the kind of level that you were at before. And if that works for
Right.
you, like if you're happy to do more of a consultant role, as long as they're giving you that respect and you're able to kind of do something in a smaller capacity, and then you're happy with it because it works out even time wise, great. But if you do have aspirations to be earning in a certain way, or have the kind of responsibilities that perhaps you were already um, kind of in charge of before you went on maternity leave, then you just have to be a little mindful, and that depends
Yes.
on your organization culture and the kind of trajectory that you're on at the time.
Of course, I don't think that, if you go back after 4 5 years, you can't go back to the same place. Nobody's waiting for you for 4 years. But if
Yeah.
if it's a
you know
a reasonable period of
I
time.
have to Yeah, and I have to say, see, with the new laws, companies have to give you maternity. So they end up having to give you that leave, even if you've been with them a very short time. There are companies that have a large
Yes,
number of women employees. So their cost goes
yes,
through the roof. So I'm not on their
correct.
side. I'm just I'm just sharing that from a company's point of view as well. They want to know that if they're investing in you, you're also going to come back.
Of course, and I
So
think there
you
is
might
need
want
for
to
that.
think about those things. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe I was going to ask you, my next question was going to be, what are some of the strategies that companies or the workplace can imbibe to create a more inclusive environment for mothers? But since, like you rightly said, there are some laws also being put in place to make the workplace more comfortable for mothers or new mothers. As such, there is by law you need to have a crèche in your workplace if there are these many women or that many people working. So I completely understand, and I do feel that the problem doesn't lie in the workplace. It probably lies at home, and that is where we should be helping women and maybe supporting them and creating that kind of putting out that sort of a message in the society that women also need to be given the kind of support they require to be able to go back to work. Because clearly, the companies in the workplace is supporting women because they need them. It is a great return on investment to have a woman be in your team.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that it's the social structures, while the narrative is changing, and I think that's also what we're doing. Because, see, for example, at Ladies Who Lead, we don't make it, all about it has to be serious and work. It's a very relaxed, comfortable space in a safe environment. So we have, for instance, at our espresso events, women who come and pitch, like it's a very informal pitch, sharing. Some of them, of course, have very structured decks. Some are still earlier stages of business, but they meet people who are willing to give them advice, network, and the idea is that it allows you to start to think differently, take home those ideas. We welcome men to come and join us at our events if they want to come with their partner. So many of our events, the women are actually coming with their husbands. They might be,
Right.
sometimes they're the only two men in the room. But
Yeah.
they don't feel awkward, and the women are so happy to be able to bring their partner along. So it is an inclusive community, because only with the men involved can we change the narrative. And I think that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So that's one big part of it for sure. And
Yeah.
I had another thought, but it's gone. So we were talking about social structures, and yes, flexi work. I think the one thing companies can do is adapt flexi work. I think in India we're still a while away from that. Companies, I think, find it challenging, or again, that's a very archaic notion of the fact that, oh, someone has to work 10 hours in order to, you know,
I agree.
in order to them for them to feel like they've
They've done
worked.
something. Yeah, productivity and
Yeah,
hours of
yeah.
work have no correlation. I completely agree with you. In
No.
fact, I recently saw this chat by a woman founder, and
Mm,
she has used a mother's community to her advantage and employed many of them. And they're all working, like you said, they have flexi hours and they work remotely, they work from home, they can
mm,
take care of their children, yet earn. So she has done it really beautifully. I also feel that having more women in leadership positions
mm.
brings out this creativity, and women come up with creative ideas to make it easier for other women to be able to work or to be able to earn money for themselves or to just be independent. So which is exactly why it needs to trickle down from the top and have all these women in the workforce and be in such roles where they can make those strategies.
And women can also support other women. You can also tap into your network and give that. Um, let's say you have a
Right.
project, or you want to commission something, you want to buy something. I mean, why not first think also about the women in your network? I'm not saying support someone if I'm not saying go buy X if you don't like it. I'm not saying that, but at least give them a shot, because that's how they'll grow. And I, of course, now running Ladies Who Lead, only think about women first. But many times in terms of some of the stories I'm doing, and so forth, I also find that while some women who are more well versed with the world of media, for example, are more willing to put themselves out there, many women are still, they get a little bogged down perhaps in the number of things that they're doing in a day, and they don't always prioritize things like events or speaking
Yeah.
opportunities and those kind of things. But your own personal brand building is important. It is part of work. It's whether it's on your social media or LinkedIn page, whether you're starting to be seen at certain events or amongst certain people. All of this helps, in order to also build your own business.
I completely agree. You never know who's watching, you never know who's listening. Sometimes the opportunity of a lifetime can come from something something you may not have given that much importance. So you really need to, like you said, build your personal brand. Unless you're seen, nobody will give you the opportunity. So you need to put yourself out there. And I think not just women, for anybody who's trying to accomplish something in life, you really need to get out, meet people, be a little unafraid, and don't worry if you make a little bit of a fool of yourself also in the
Yeah.
pursuit of doing that. So that's great. I think that's a great point that you made there. And we can probably, maybe I can ask you a few questions before you leave.
Hmm.
Can you give me names of like five women you'd really look up to? Like five women, like top of, like the cream that really inspires you?
Um, there's so many, and in Indian global.
There's so many. I'll give
Um,
you 10.
no, no, five is okay. I'm just like, I mean, obviously Arundhati Bhattacharya. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, Renuka Ramnath. Manisha Girotra. Um, these are some uh, really solid women. And in addition to that, Kalpana Moroparia, in her, of course, she's retired now, but she was amazing. And I've given you a lot of all. See, it's so many of from finance, right? It's
Yeah.
think about it. Think about it.
And
Women
yeah,
are good with numbers. Come
women
on,
are good with numbers.
huh?
I like that, that women are good with numbers. No, no
Women
more
are good.
stereotyping.
Exactly. And I'm trying. I mean, I can think of many more. I was just trying to think of my top five. I mean, I'm of course tempted to say Falguni, and by the way, she was
Of
also she was also a banker before she
yes,
launched
yes, of course,
Nika.
that is
So
well known now.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's actually really true. I think that's what brought her to such success because she was so good with. She knew exactly what goes behind. If you can gauge profits, you can make it.
yeah, absolutely.
That's a cool list. And my final question to you, and I think it's a light-hearted, interesting one, or maybe could be really profound. What advice would you give your younger self?
Ooh. So, I was listening to someone the other day, and they said that it's okay if you didn't make the mistakes you did when you were younger. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know better. I've always been someone who's willing to try out things, and I think all of that eventually ties into whatever you do later in life. So, yeah, I think I wouldn't do anything differently. Perhaps just be more confident of yourself. I think sometimes we just don't believe in ourselves enough. And I
That's
don't know if that's a women thing. It is, of course, to some extent. A lot of women don't necessarily because it's
yeah,
in the air around them. It's not always that they don't want to. It's sometimes just in the air around them. But definitely, I think if you believe in yourself, then everything's possible. Okay, sometimes you'll fall down, you'll get back up. It's okay. It's all par for the course.
that's wonderful. I think that's a great thought to end this podcast with. Thank you so much, Abha. It has been such a pleasure having you here with us. I personally really enjoyed this chat. I hope it was good for you, and I'm so excited to put this out on Women's Day. I'm sure it'll help a lot of women out there. And if you like the video, if you want to watch more of these, please let us know in comments and subscribe to our channel, Meet the Mom.
Neha, thank you so much. You were amazing. It was
Thank
a
you.
really engaging discussion, and I'm really, proud to have been on your podcast on Women's Day, and I look forward to meeting you as well as many of the women in your community sometime very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Abha. It was such a pleasure. I had a wonderful time with you today. And I will definitely come by one of those events. I am a part of your
Please.
organization. I really look
Yes,
forward to meeting you soon.
looking forward. Okay,
Take care. Thank you.
bye.
I'll
Bye.
tag you. I'll get you and get all your social handles, and we'll tag you
Sure.
everywhere when we publish it. Thanks. Thank you so much. Bye bye.